We start off in the second tutorial of the series with the level we made in our project for the first tutorial. I want to make a new level to introduce you to working with the content browser and assets. You can make a new level by either going to File and choosing New Level, or by right-clicking in the content browser and choosing Level from the menu. First, I'll make a new folder by right-clicking in the content browser window and choosing New Folder. This is where I'll import the assets for this level. Next, I'll go to File and choose New Level, and then choose the default. This will give us a level with a floor and some lighting. I can then go to File and choose Save Current As, and give my file a new name. I'll go back to my content folder and open up the starter content and look for material to use as the floor. When I find one I want to use, I can simply drag and drop it onto the floor. The content browser is the primary area of Unreal where you can create, import, organize, view, and modify assets. You can also manage content folders and the assets themselves. And you're able to search and interact with any of the assets. The content browser can be split into 5 sections: the navigation bar, the sources view, collections panel, the asset management area, and the asset view. The navigation bar is where you have access to controls for navigating between your folders. The show and hide button toggles the sources between the sources view and the collections area. The history back and forward buttons allow you to navigate between recent file paths. The breadcrumb trail shows the current file path and allows you to quickly navigate to parent folders. The Sources panel contains a list of all your folders and collections for the project. The search bar allows you to narrow a list of available folders, and the asset tree is a hierarchical list that shows all of the folders within the project. The collections list is an alphabetical list of all the collections in the project. The Add Collections button creates a new collection. The Asset Management area provides functions for assets such as creation, saving, searching, and filtering. The Filter button allows you to apply filters to the asset view. The search bar is where you can narrow down the list of available assets according to search criteria. The Save button allows you to save any new or edited assets. The asset view is the primary region of the content browser, which gives you a grid or a list of available assets. The view area shows the assets included in a selected folder. The view options contains a thumbnail slider, a view style, and a preview of the assets. You can import a new asset by right-clicking in a blank area in the content browser and choose Import Asset. I'll be using the Suburban Asset Pack from Kenny. The link is in the description. These assets are free to use, but if you can afford it, please consider donating to him so he can continue to offer these packs. I'll make a folder for this level. For convenience sake, I'll use the right-click method of importing the assets. I'll right-click on a blank area in the folder in my content browser and choose Import Asset. Then I'll choose the FBX models I want to import from the downloaded files and open them. The Import Options dialog is now available. The Import button allows you to import the currently selected FBX file, and the Import All allows you to import all the currently selected FBX files. We'll leave all the options at their defaults and choose Import All. Then you can see a dialog box showing the progress. If you see a smoothing group error, you can ignore it since Unreal will self-correct the issue. After everything is imported, unsaved assets are marked with an asterisk in the content browser. Use the Save All button to save all of the content. You can now simply drag and drop an actor from the content browser into the level. In order to delete an asset, simply right-click on the asset, go to Edit, and Delete. Assets and folders are managed in the content browser. Assets can be moved or copied from one folder to another. New folders can be created, and folder structures in the asset tree can be moved, all by dragging and dropping. The content browser is also where you can migrate assets from one project to another. All you need to do is select the assets in the content browser that you want to migrate. Right-click on the selected assets, then choose Asset Actions and Migrate from the menu. Then click Save Selected, and then OK on the confirmation window. And choose the content folder from another project. And you'll get a confirmation if it migrated successfully. Importing textures is done the same way as importing assets. I'll first make a separate folder for my textures and a folder for my materials. I'll now drag and drop the textures into the texture folder. The link to these textures is in the description. I will then save them. Now I'm ready to make a material. Open up the material folder. Right-click to open the menu and choose Material. I'll now name the material. The naming convention for materials within Unreal is M underscore and then the name. Now I can double-click on the material to open up the material editor. For convenience, I will dock the material editor next to the Level tab. Scrolling the mouse wheel will zoom in and out, and holding down the right mouse button will allow you to pan and move. The material editor can be divided up into 6 separate sections. There's the menu bar, toolbar, viewport panel, details panel, graph panel, Palette panel. The menu bar contains all the usual menus and options. The toolbar contains a list of tool options that can be used in the material editor. The viewport panel displays the currently edited material. The details panel is where all the properties for the material are shown. The graph panel contains all the material expressions or nodes belonging to the material. The palette panel contains a list of material nodes that can be used via drag and drop on the details panel. We will begin building out the material by searching for a constant 3 vector. This vector is an expression that outputs a 3-channel vector value, that is RGB, where each channel is assigned to a different color. All I need to do is drag the node onto the graph panel. In the details panel, I click on the color next to constant to bring up a color picker, where I can choose a green color. Now I can connect the vector to the base color of the material output, and then save the material. Then back in the level, I choose the floor, and then drag and drop the material onto the floor. The material is a little too shiny for a grass material, so back in the material editor, I need to change the roughness level. I'll right click in the graph panel and search for constant, and this will output a single float. In this case, the value will be used for all 3 elements of the vector we made earlier. I connect the constant to the roughness of the material output, and in the detail panel, I'll change the value to a number between 0 and 1, with 0 being not rough at all and 1 being 100% rough. I'll set this as 0.8. I'll save the material, and back in the level, I can see the change in the material. Now we can move on to making a material with our imported textures. I will first disconnect the vector from the material using Alt left click on the connector. I need to add a texture sample node, which I can do by right clicking the graph panel and searching for texture sample. This expression outputs the color values from a texture. I connect the texture sample to the base color. Now, if you have a texture selected in the content browser, it'll automatically be selected for this node. With the texture sample selected, I choose the texture I want to use in the detail panels from the texture drop-down menu. I need to add a second texture sample node, and the shortcut for this is T and left click. Then I connect this texture sample node to the normal. With the texture sample node selected, I can choose the texture I want to use in the details panel from the texture drop-down menu. Even though this is a simple material, I'll show you how to add comments to the graph panel. I'll select the normal texture sample and using the C key to add a comment. I can then give the comment a name. This can also be done by selecting multiple nodes and grouping them together. Now I'll show you how to import an audio. The link is in the description. WAV files work best in Unreal, so if, like me, you have a non-WAV file, you'll need to convert it. There's tons of conversion sites online for this. I add a folder to the level for audio. I right-click in the folder in the content browser and locate my audio file. After the audio is imported, I save it. If I click on the audio, I can preview it. To use the imported music, right-click on the file and then choose Create Queue. This creates the initial node setup for us. Double-click on the new sound cue to open up the sound editor. I'll turn down the volume of the music in the Details panel. I select the Music node and check Looping in the Details panel. I then save the file. Back in the level, I drag and drop the file onto the level. Then when I play the level, I can hear the audio. I will just touch on the basics of lighting in this tutorial. There are two ways to add a light to the level. You can drag and drop a light from the Modes window, or right-click in the viewport and choose a light from the Place Actors section. You have the choice of 4 types of light: directional light, spotlight, point light, and rectangle light. Once the light is imported, you can change the position. Hotkey is W. And the rotation with a hotkey of E. In the Details panel, you can change the intensity of the light. You can also change the light color. The attenuation radius sets the reach of the light. It defines which objects will be affected by the light. It also serves as the outer bounds when calculating falloff. The source radius and the source length define the size of the specular highlights on a surface. This is the end of part 2 of the Beginners tutorial series. I encourage you to add more assets, materials, audio, and lights to your level to see what you can make. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this useful. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and turn on the notifications. Have a good day.